Today we're talking about India's Green Revolution. It's an incredible story, really. A story about desperation, innovation, and, yeah, some pretty big unintended consequences.
So how does a nation escape the brink of famine? I mean, it's a massive question, a question of pure survival. And back in the mid-20th century, this was the challenge for a newly independent India. We're talking make-or-break stuff. And the answer they found? Well, it didn't just change the nation, it changed the entire world.
So let's set the scene. It's just after 1947. India has its independence, but it's staring down the barrel of a massive, massive crisis.
Okay, so what did that crisis look like? Well, for starters, there were severe food shortages. The population was just booming, but the farms, they just couldn't keep up. This meant India was heavily dependent on food imports, which, is a really vulnerable spot for any country to be in. The pressure was just immense. The mission was clear. Figure out how to grow a lot more food and do it like yesterday.
And this is where the story takes a really dramatic turn. Because the solution wasn't going to be about just, working harder in the fields. It was about working smarter. It was about a whole new wave of technology that was about to completely change the game for farming.
This new approach, this is what became known as the Green Revolution. And it's important to get this right. It wasn't just one single invention. It was really a powerful combination of different ideas and initiatives, all designed to jack up agricultural output using modern science and tech.
So what was in this toolkit? Well, at its core, you had three main things. First, these new high-yielding varieties of seeds. We'll just call them HYVs. Second, you had chemical inputs, think fertilizers and pesticides, to help these new seeds really thrive. And third, modern irrigation, to make sure they got all the water they needed. It was basically a complete package for a whole new way of farming.
Now, these high-yielding varieties, they were the real game changers. People like Norman Borlaug and M.S. Swaminathan were behind this, and what they created was incredible. These seeds were bred to be shorter and stronger so they could hold more grain without falling over. And when you compare them to the old traditional seeds, it's night and day. We're talking much higher yields, shorter growing seasons, and way more resistance to diseases and pests. People literally called them miracle seeds for a reason. So you put this whole toolkit together, and the result? Well, it was nothing short of an agricultural miracle. Seriously. Suddenly, India was on track to do something many people thought was just impossible, feeding its own population.
Just look at the numbers. In the span of a single decade, from the 60s to the 70s, wheat production in India more than doubled. Let that sink in. This wasn't just a small bump. It was a complete explosion of productivity.
And the ripple effects of that explosion were felt everywhere. India finally achieved food self-sufficiency. It broke free from its dependence on foreign aid and imports. This farming boom kicked off rural economies, it created tons of jobs, and it genuinely played a massive role in pulling millions of people out of poverty.
So yeah, the Green Revolution was this fundamental, transformative event. It took a nation on the very edge of famine and turned it into a self-sufficient agricultural powerhouse. An amazing success story, right? Well, it turns out every miracle has a price. Because with all of this incredible progress came consequences, things nobody really saw coming. The miracle, as it turns out, had a dark side. So, what was the price for this miracle? What was the true cost of achieving food security so incredibly fast?
First, let's talk about the environment. The toll was heavy. All those chemical fertilizers and pesticides that made the crops grow so well, they also started to poison the soil and the water. And because everyone was focused on just a few super productive crops, biodiversity just plummeted. Plus, the constant need for water for irrigation started draining underground water supplies at an alarming rate.
And then there were the social costs. Because the benefits of this revolution, they weren't spread out evenly, not at all. The big, large-scale farmers who could actually afford the new seeds and chemicals, they did great. But this just made the gap between them and the small family farmers even wider. It also created these huge regional divides. You had states like Punjab that just took off, while places in eastern India, which didn't have the same infrastructure, got left way behind. And for many farmers, this just led to a deeper and deeper cycle of debt and despair.
So that's the complicated legacy we're left with. And it brings us right up to today. All of the problems created by that first Green Revolution have people talking about the need for a new approach, a second Green Revolution, if you will, one that can learn from the mistakes of the past to build a much more sustainable future.
And you can really see the shift in thinking here. The first time around, the goal was simple, just increase crop yields, no matter what. Now, the focus is on getting high yields sustainably. Instead of just dumping chemicals on everything, the new methods are things like organic farming and agroecology. That basically means thinking of a farm as a whole ecosystem and working with nature instead of fighting it. So the focus isn't just on having enough food anymore. It's about environmental health and making sure things are fair for everyone, too.
And all of this leaves us with a really big, defining question for our time, doesn't it? We learned how to perform a miracle, how to feed 1 billion people, but we also learned the steep price of that miracle. So now, with everything we know, can we do it again? Can we engineer a new revolution, a greener one, that's not just productive, but also fair and sustainable for the entire planet? I mean, the future of our food really depends on the answer.